Could you imagine a UFO so large that it was just impossible to move this craft? So instead, what humanity decided to do to cover it up was not move it into a secure facility like we typically see with the whole, Area 51 narrative. Instead, people just decided to build a larger building around the craft so that they could test on it in privacy. Well, that's exactly what has been claimed by not only Ross Coulthart, who mentioned this back in, I think it was 2023, but it has been resurfaced from a Joe Rogan Experience podcast clip and, a little narrative that they spoke about with AJ from the Y Files, okay? Now, this, obviously, like I say, isn't exactly brand new news. This has been reported on from Ross Coulthart back in 2023 when it was put out, this little nugget of information from Ross himself, who stated this.
People are going to question what I'm about to say. What if some of that shit is so big it can't be moved?
Is that what you're saying, Ross? Is that what you've been told?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
How big is big?
Big. So big, they built a building over it in a country outside of the United States of America. I know that sounds preposterous, and I know, oh my God, you can just hear them now, the bleating debunkers. Let's see this investigated. Let's just see what happens. Let's test these allegations before the Congress. It's very, very easy for people to go, oh, there's no evidence. Oh, my goodness me. Let's just go away and ignore it. Let's test it. We haven't even got there yet. There's a whole cadre of supposed experts on social media who are saying it can't be, therefore it isn't. And that's been the default for so many years. It can't be, therefore it isn't. Imagine if what Mr. Grush is saying is true. Think about the implications of that. And imagine if, as I've just intimated to you, some of these objects are not capable of being moved because they're too bloody big.
I mean, that's pretty astonishing. Have you said that before?
No, you're the first. See, I always save something for you, Jay.
Always save me a little something. No, seriously though, Ross, that's nuts. So you were told by someone, a trusted source, I imagine, that
multiple
yeah.
That there is. And the thing that amuses me is there is now, I have noticed, emerging on social media a plethora of tweet bots that I've never seen before. And they're running this constant line, this constant nagging line. Oh, where's the evidence? And you know what? I don't give a fuck what they say, because what they say is irrelevant.
I want to take you back a few minutes before we move forward. You brought up, and it was like you were reading my cheat sheet here, the craft you mentioned, and that's been a talking point now for months. It was outside the US. In this podcast Discord chat, it's much more civil than it is online, and people were discussing those. It genuinely is, and people were quite nicely discussing that comment and the debate, and it was all had very kindly, and you had some supporters, others a little bit more frustrated, was around why exactly you aren't allowed to say where the craft is. And I wonder, is that protecting sources, or what would happen if you came out today on this podcast and said, okay, Andy, the craft is in France?
Let me tell you, I can't tell you the country it's in. It's not America. But what I can tell you is that the place where it is kept is used for another purpose that is a laudatory purpose. That's as much in your interests in your country in the UK as it is in mine in Australia and as it is in America. So the simple reasons are that, there are other uses for the place where this object is stored.
And we could end up with a Storm Area 51 type scenario if you came out and announced it.
I can tell you, mate, that would be a nightmare, absolute nightmare. And, it's funny. I know a lot of people think journos just publish and be damned, but, I've been in situations where I've known the identities of active intelligence operatives in countries overseas. And I've realized, Christ, if I published this, I could jeopardize their lives. So there is an element of source protection as well. I mean, I don't want the personnel in those facilities to be hurt. And it could create an international incident.
So that's obviously the claims that were made back in 2023 when Ross very elusively kind of mentioned this facility. Now, obviously, the internet did what the internet does best. Obviously, it's not as of yet been 100% confirmed, but a lot of people are pointing to a facility in South Korea, which goes by these coordinates right here. Right, and it's this massive looking facility that looks oddly like a UFO from Google Images, right? And it looks like the facility that you see in the first Thor movie when the hammer hits into the ground, right? So, you know, the internet has been very speculative, let's say. But obviously, the coordinates, are just north of Seoul in South Korea. And the coordinates, for anyone that's interested, are 37.7480264 by 126.9912521. Now, obviously, like I say, not 100% confirmed, but a lot of people are pointing to this location in particular. Now, you might be wondering, well, why is this becoming a thing? If it was spoken about back in 2023, why now in 2025, in the middle of, what are we in, almost June, why are we talking about this? Well, there's a hell of a lot to it. So the claim about the UFO so large that the building was constructed around it stems primarily from statements obviously made by the Australian investigative journalist Ross Coulthart. According to Coulthart, this alleged quote-unquote non-human spacecraft is so massive that it couldn't be moved, leading to a structure being built over it to conceal it. He has emphasized that the location is outside of the United States but has not disclosed a specific site, citing the sensitivity of the information and calling for congressional investigation to verify the claims that have been made. Now, speculation within the UFO communities and on platforms like Reddit and X has pointed to various potential locations, with South Korea frequently being mentioned due to the supposed circular building near Seoul, identified some as the VOR, the VHF, or omnidirectional range aviation navigation facility rather than a UFO cover, and other sites in Ayang, which have also been shared, but aviation experts like Tyler Rogaway argue that these are likely air defense or navigation facilities, not UFO-related structures, right? Now, there are other locations as well that have been mentioned. So there's the Esrange Space Center in Sweden due to its large restricted area and proximity to the Russian border, though some argue the topography, like for example being on a mountain, makes it unlikely for a crashed craft. There is Antarctica. Antarctica always comes up, dismissed by some for a lack of sufficiently large structures due to the difficulty of digging into the ice. Poland has been mentioned, suggested because of US corporation connections, though no concrete evidence actually supports this. Chernobyl has also been mentioned. Obviously, that was the site of the nuclear reactor malfunction, and it's been speculated as a cover for the UFO crash, but widely debunked due to extensive documentation of the nuclear disaster that obviously took place there. And the Vatican Hill or Temple Mount, proposed by the historical significance, but dismissed due to archaeological scrutiny and age of structures. Now, at the time of recording, Coulthart's claims, amplified by figures like Joe Rogan and AJ from the Y-Files, lack hard evidence, leading to skepticism. Critics note that Coulthart's refusal to specify the location undermines the credibility and has been seen as teasing without substantiation. Posts on X and Reddit often treat this claim as speculative or recurring trope in the ufology, with some users joking about the building like the Vegas Sphere or the Walmart warehouses hiding UFOs. Now, the reason that this is trending right now, obviously claims from 2023, why in 2025? Due to the recent mentions by prominent figures and ongoing discussions in the UFO communities, like people, for example, like Joe Rogan on the most recent Joe Rogan Experience, and AJ from the Y-Files, referring to the claim being made by Coulthart, with specific nods to South Korea as a possible location. Emphasis on possible location, as nothing is concrete evidence, right? Now, these posts highlight the supposed structure, described as a 120-meter building allegedly built to conceal a crashed UFO, reigniting speculation. The story originally polarized by Ross Coulthart in 2023 gains traction periodically due to its sensational nature and lack of definitive debunking to confirmation, fueling online debates, right? So that's why obviously people are all over this. Again, people on Twitter, for example, are jumping straight to South Korea, that location just north of Seoul. And also you've got other people who have, like, other clips that have been resurfaced, right? Like, for example, Dr. Stephen Greer, who has spoken about this topic as well prior to Ross Coulthart even mentioning it. Again, Dr. Stephen Greer, obviously, before I post, is a controversial figure in and of himself. What you think about him is what you think of him, but this is the context of the video.
Had dealt with a facility outside Seoul, South Korea, where there was a huge extraterrestrial vehicle that they had downed with apparently some type of electronic warfare system that was they had to carve out a huge part of the mountain just to contain this object because it was too big to move to any other site, and that it is still there. So this is just sort of like,
does that confirm the Seoul location is where this UFO craft is? Absolutely not. But it is a pointer in the right direction. Now, obviously, this is yet to be confirmed or even denied because of the claims that are being made and all the rest of it. But what do you guys think of this? Is there a crashed UFO in Seoul so large that they had to build a building around it because they couldn't move it? Or is this just more smoke and mirrors? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. While you're down there, jump, get the hell out of that like button and subscribe. And until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.